When was the last time you took an opportunity to ask yourself, am I living my life as my best self? Or am I on autopilot just trying to keep up? Today, we're going to talk about pausing and reflecting on what is purposeful to you. And it's a way for us to consider what our compass might actually be telling us and how we might make some shifts. Thank you for joining. Welcome to The Rooted Leader. Hi, I'm Kathleen Wise-Mandel. I'm a scientist, leader for over 20 years, and now a leadership coach. I created the short leadership minisodes that meet busy leaders where they are, offering insight, reflection, and questions that support growth in the flow of your work. You can think of it as your own mini personal coaching session. Thank you for being here. It's not always easy to find times to be more purposeful, and it's certainly not unique to leaders. We can all lead a more purposeful life. And I want us to consider what purpose looks for our whole selves. Sometimes we get swept into the busyness of life, and we don't stop to ask, what is my purpose? In the Root newsletter from May 2023, I cover the book, The Leader You Want to Be, 5 Essential Principles for Bringing Out Your Best Self Every Day by Amy Sue. And it's a book I love. It was really resonating with me at a time that I took a career pivot to lead with more purpose. In it, she talks about ways that we all can avoid the pitfalls of just doing. And some of those pitfalls include things that we say to ourselves, and I know I hear these from leaders that I coach. I'll just do more, or I'll just do it now, or I'll just do it myself, or I'll just do it later. Of those, which one or ones resonate the most? I can tell you from my perspective, I say, well, I'll just do more. And that can be a real trap for being purposeful. Amy Sue talks about her experience coaching senior leaders and C-suite folks, but it absolutely applies to everyone, is how we reset our compass towards a life of being our best selves. She talks about internal and external levers and how we make it happen. And she focuses on the 5 Ps, the 5 essential principles. Part of it's just continuously having that self-awareness. So it's not something we do once a year and then put it on the shelf, but it's something we assess and reflect on often. The first P is purpose, and this is an internal lever. How do we reset our compass while focusing on our passion? And also, how do we focus our purpose on how we might be a contribution? Like, how might we contribute to our families? How might we contribute to our work, our teams, our friends in a more purposeful way? One thing that Amy Sue mentions is that we tend to assume what other people want from us. She suggests we just ask what's important for them. Instead of spreading ourselves thin, doing everything that we think our child or children may want, or partner or friends, have we asked them specifically how they want us to show up? And could that conversation allow us to focus efforts? And then the second P is process. Now, this is an external lever because it takes that opportunity for us to organize our time to protect our energy. And most commonly, this is about prioritizing and delegating, things that can be hard for us as women and leaders to do. The people part is the third P. And again, this is an external lever because it takes setting our own boundaries, asking others, delegating things to people, and raising their game to help them develop while we're allowing ourselves to raise our own game. The fourth P is presence, and this is an internal aspect. How do we show up? Are we pausing between the stimulus in our lives and our ability to respond to those effectively, or are we so busy we find ourselves reacting? This is a time, I think, particularly now, where people are talking about nervous system regulation. And I can tell you, I believe it to be very true for myself. What we want to do here is notice patterns in ourselves when we feel most engaged and when we feel disengaged. Also, when we feel anxious and when we feel calm. And what is it informing for you? When you feel calm, what are you doing? Notice that. Write it down. When you feel anxious, what's going on for you? Again, notice and write it down. And if you keep a log over time of when you feel engaged or anxious or calm or in the flow, get a sense of what you were doing. It can be a really great way to reflect on patterns that occur over time and what you can do to respond to those patterns by making small shifts in your day-to-day. The fifth P is peace. This is an internal lever. And I really love that she calls out peace for us. Just trust that you can do things that come your way. Last night, I attended a Women in Biotech event at a local university, and many of the women on the panel said they needed to trust themselves when they were doing something new, something that might be scary, where they didn't know they had all the skills, but they trusted their instincts and leaned in. And part of that piece is not just being compassionate with ourselves, but when we're leading and interacting with others, that we lead with trust and gratitude, especially under stress. I can say that personally for me, this shows up in my family when I have some stress. I might not necessarily always lead with gratitude. So I see that in myself and can find what's causing that to happen for me and how do I make it shift. Because it's not all about, I'll do it myself, I'll do it now. Those cannot be our responses if we want to lead purposefully. Amy Jen Sue says, by living with purpose and meaning, we gain the benefits of a few important things. One of them is impact. We all want to do things that add value to something or someone. An organization, a family, maybe a team member. And by allowing ourselves to live with those 5 Ps in a pretty good balance, we can have impact and it becomes a virtuous cycle. And then results. We, by keeping the boundaries for ourselves and maintaining our energy in a positive way, we can have the satisfaction of meeting goals and deliverables, instead of the frenzy of having a too long to-do list because we didn't have an opportunity to either prioritize, understand if what we were doing was actually adding value, or possibly that someone else could be doing it instead of us. The third benefit is that it allows us to live with meaning and create meaning and to do work that is meaningful. I know for me, for so long, drug development was a really meaningful career. I knew that what we were working on was helping people to treat unmet needs for their medical care. And that slowly evolved into leading others and helping them grow their careers. And now, as a coach, helping leaders move through change, move through transitions, and just understanding themselves to find their best selves is super meaningful to me. And I can feel it. I can feel that difference. The other benefit is connection. We often get that connection for working with others on a common goal. Whether it's a personal or a community goal, maybe you're working for a nonprofit organization as a volunteer or as part of your own organizational team. That connection is meaningful. Many of our friends throughout our lives have come from work families. Creativity is another benefit. And if we're feeling really imbalanced, that creativity might not be present. It's a really good clue if this is missing for you. How can you find ways to create value or learning in a new way to be excited? Not only yourself, but people in your organization or team. Find ways to create value or explore opportunities to learn in a new way can be exciting. We open up ourselves if we have time to create. And if this piece is missing, this is a really big piece that helps that positive emotional attractor that we talked about in episode 5. It can create a lot of positivity for us in our lives. And then the last benefit is growth. And growth can be scary and exciting. It can come from a new role, and that could even be a lateral transition, but it allows us to grow in learning and capacity. And that learning experience can often spark or be sparked by curiosity. And again, that ignites the positive emotional attractors that help us just feel so good about what we're doing instead of being bogged down in the status quo or being unexcited about the work that we're doing. Living a more purposeful life isn't an easy track. It may take time to learn something new, and that's the trade-off. But change, even though it's a little uncomfortable, can be a good thing to excite us, as long as it's aligned with something that you value very much and takes advantage of your strengths. It also could help grow new strengths. So if something new is coming your way and it doesn't seem to line up 100%, don't worry. Take an opportunity to expand your capabilities. Yesterday, I was talking with social impact leaders that I work with, and we talked about leading with purpose. And leading with purpose and leading from the heart is so important, but it's hard work. One of our cohort members shared postcards of famous Latina leaders in history. And what we had to remember about those beautiful, successful women is they may not have been seen as successful while they were leading that important historic battle. Sometimes when we're in that space of leading with purpose, with our values, it doesn't feel easy and graceful, but it can still resonate with your soul. And lastly, I'll just say that it's not always easy to take a transition in your career to go towards a more meaningful adventure. If that's not an opportunity for you, I would say try to find aspects of your work that can excite you and ignite some creativity. Is there an opportunity to get involved with a new initiative? Is there an opportunity to mentor someone or be mentored? Is there an opportunity for a lateral shift to something that you can use your transferable skills but learn a new part of the business? Or it might be an exploration in your personal life. Do you have an opportunity to volunteer for a cause that is worthwhile? And can you connect with your community in a different way that adds a little more zest and energy to your life? 3 takeaways. Take time for continuous self-reflection and awareness. When we do so, we can find patterns of where we're aligned, engaged, versus disconnected. And we can consider how we are living into our values and our strengths and can help inform our purpose gap. Second, by taking a time and energy inventory, it can be useful to help us understand what we can prioritize and delegate to allow ourselves more energy to pursue values-aligned work or activities. Ask others in your life what's important for them and how you show up. This can really help us prioritize and be more purposeful, rather than spreading ourselves thin. And third, finding more alignment with those 5 Ps helps us create a more virtuous cycle that not only makes us feel good, but increases our impact, the meaning that we have in our work, our connection, and our growth for a whole self perspective. In the newsletter issue from May 2023, I also share a podcast episode of the winning season for underrepresented leaders with Jacqueline V. Twilley. She discusses the pillars of purposeful leadership. I hope you'll check it out. I also share tips for staying more focused at work to help us with our presence and our energy management, and I hope they provide some great insights. If you think that might be an interesting episode for the Rooted Leader, email me and let me know. Reflection questions. If you're able to, go ahead and take a moment to pause between questions. This will be your mini personal coaching session. What are you really good at? What do people compliment you on in the work you do and the things you do outside of work? What things do you value most in others? What do you value in yourself? What about in your work? What might be missing from your current life and living in congruence with your values? Think of someone who has lived or has led a life through their values. How was their experience? What was their impact? Why was it meaningful to you? What might you consider to build more purpose into your whole life? As I said earlier, maybe a job change is not an option, but is there a way to volunteer or mentor or get involved with a community that would fulfill your values and most likely use a strength that you have? Thank you for joining the Rooted Leader podcast. And if today's minisode sparked something for you, take a moment to reflect on the questions in the show notes. You'll find links and resources there as well. If you'd like to share a thought or a question for a future episode, you can email me at therootedleaderpodcast@gmail.com or reply directly on the Rooted Leader Substack. Please be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Until next time, stay rooted in authenticity and empathy. Thank you.